Tonight on NewsCenter. North Korea says it has miniaturized nuclear warheads to mount on ballistic missiles. South Korea thinks otherwise. Cyber attacks. South Korea's presidential office calls the latest cyber attacks by North Korea a grave provocation and calls on authorities to minimize possible damage. And 1-0. In a landmark battle between man and artificial intelligence, machine beats the world champion of the game Go in the first of a series of games in Seoul. NewsCenter begins right now. It is 8 a.m. in New York, 12 noon in London, and 10 on a Wednesday night here in Seoul. Hello and welcome to our viewers all across the globe. You're watching Arirang News Center. Now, North Korea continues to forge ahead with its nuclear threat, this time claiming it has miniaturized nuclear warheads to fit on ballistic missiles. Now, although the regime's breakthrough seems dubious, Seoul and Washington are keeping close tabs on the progress. Connie Kim has our top story.
Has North Korea succeeded in miniaturizing a nuclear warhead to fit on a ballistic missile? North Korea's official Korean Central News Agency on Wednesday quoted leader Kim Jong-un as saying it has. Pyongyang has made the same claim in the past, but this is the first time its leader has been quoted directly. It's also the first time the North has released a picture of the warhead, with an image of the purported device appearing in the North's daily 노동신문 the same day. Shaped like a silver sphere, it's estimated to be about a meter in diameter. The Daily also released photos of the North's KN-08 intercontinental ballistic missile prior to completion. South Korea on Wednesday expressed doubt over the North's claim.
South Korea believes North Korea does not possess a miniaturized nuclear warhead, nor the capability to field a KN-08. South Korea and U.S. intelligence officials are tracking the issue.
However, North Korea experts are keeping an eye on the progress Pyongyang may have made in its miniaturization capability.
Looking at the history of North Korea's nuclear weapons development program, I believe North Korea's success in miniaturizing a nuclear warhead is imminent. The regime looks like it will be able to mount a nuclear warhead on medium or large missiles.
If the regime has succeeded, Seoul and Washington will need to revise their operation plan, which is designed to detect, disrupt, destroy, and defend the peninsula against North Korea's long-range ballistic missiles. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, meanwhile, North Korea's latest attempts to hack into key South Korean officials' smartphones, the presidential office of Cheongwade has released a statement. The top office regards those attacks as grave provocations and has called for full countermeasures against any future cyber threats by Pyongyang. Here's our presidential office correspondent Song Ji-sun with the latest.
In a statement to the nation delivered by her spokesperson, President Park Geun-hye said that North Korea's recent act of tapping into smartphones of senior South Korean officials in charge of national security is another type of provocation following its nuclear test and missile launch. After an emergency meeting on Tuesday, Seoul's intelligence agency confirmed that Pyongyang has attempted to hack into smartphones of key South Korean defense officials as well as diplomats. Among their 50-some targets, the regime succeeded in tapping into conversations and text messages of 10 phones. According to the Intel agency, high-profile targets were South Korea's National Security Council Chief Kim Kwan-jin, Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se, and Defense Minister Han Min-gu, but none of them were hacked. President Park asked all relevant parties to be on full alert and rev up preventive measures against additional cyber attacks, which he said could lead to a nationwide chaos.
Our society could fall into a severe chaos, possibly leading to massive casualties and financial losses. All organizations and individuals must pay extra attention to counter such possibility.
Creating thousands of zombie PCs by planting malicious codes, North Korea has been beefing up its cyber army over the past years, carrying out large-scale cyber attacks on South Korea's banking system and major broadcasters in 2011 and 2013. Following the recent passage of a counterterrorism bill at the National Assembly, President Park has been continuously urging lawmakers to also pass the bill on anti-cyber terrorism to better equip the nation against such threats coming from the north and elsewhere. 송지선, Arirang News.
Well, the country's financial sector is also on high alert against a potential large-scale cyber attack by North Korea, although financial and intelligence officials say there haven't yet been any damage to the greater public. Seoul's financial authorities have opened up emergency checkups across major institutions, while private banks have bumped up their own security measures. Oh Soo-young reports.
South Korea's banking sector is bolstering security measures to safeguard internal networks in the face of potential cyber attacks from North Korea. The South Korean Financial Supervisory Service said Wednesday that it has launched emergency data system checkups across 60 major financial institutions in the country. A group of IT specialists will evaluate whether defensive measures are soundly in place.
Most security breaches are caused by malicious coding, so we need to make sure that antivirus software is up to date and can detect any suspicious IP addresses.
Aside from governmental efforts, private banks have also been enhancing protective measures following the North's nuclear test in January and its rocket launch last month. Most banks have enforced in-house monitoring systems around the clock and installed extra data protection programs in internal networks. With these measures, financial authorities hope to diminish the chances of North Korean hackers infiltrating into their systems.
As of now, online network monitoring, antivirus software updates as well as internal network control are sufficiently being enforced. So rather than implement new measures, it's a matter of ensuring the current system is upheld.
However, the expert added that additional efforts are needed to protect banking information on an individual scale, especially when shopping or transferring money online. Keeping antivirus software updated and avoiding the use of Wi-Fi networks when carrying out bank transactions online are some of the steps recommended by financial security experts. To discuss further countermeasures against possible cyber attacks on the financial system, the country's financial authorities will convene at a meeting on Thursday. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
The latest international sanctions on North Korea, hailed as the toughest to date, appear to be really taking a bite. Even the regime's longtime ally China is turning its back, barring a North Korean freighter from one of its ports. Our foreign affairs correspondent Kwon So-ah has this report.
In one of the first signs that the UN Security Council sanctions on Pyeongchang are being implemented, China has denied a North Korean ship entry to one of its ports, according to media reports Wednesday. A Chinese shipping official says the cargo ship Grand Caro arrived at Rizhao Port in Shandong, northeastern China, over the weekend. But the port did not allow the ship to berth, as it is one of the 31 vessels blacklisted under the new UN resolution. Japanese Sankei Shimbun newspaper said Wednesday Chinese trade officials have been ordered to reject North Korean ships beginning on Thursday and to inspect all North Korean imports, adding that the Chinese government is also expected to deny passage to ships returning to the north and may even stop maritime trade with North Korea once and for all. Already, bilateral trade at the border between North Korea and China has dropped 20 to 30%, according to a diplomatic source. The latest moves appear to be a sign that North Korea's closest ally is turning its back on the regime. But experts say it's too early to verify such claims, as China cooperated with getting previous UN Security Council resolutions passed, but later displayed lukewarm attitude toward their implementation.
It will be difficult for China not to implement the sanctions they drafted over such a long period of time with the U.S. In consideration of U.S.-China relations and Beijing's national image, there's a high chance that they want to demonstrate their active participation in the implementation in the early stages after the adoption of the resolution.
The expert added, regardless of China, the international community is very supportive of the new UN resolution more than ever before, as reflected in the fast adoption of independent measures by individual countries. In the latest of these, the UK imposed new financial sanctions on Pyongyang, adding 15 individuals and 5 entities to its blacklist, making it 48 and 41 in all, along with the separate sanctions by the UN Security Council and the EU. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Now, North Korea has reportedly intensified its repression over the people's means of communication in an attempt to really bolster the citizens' isolation from the rest of the world. Our Kim Mo-kyung has more on this Amnesty International's findings.
Human rights group Amnesty International on Wednesday said that North Korea is cracking down on the regime's private use of mobile phones and internet services in order to bolster the isolation of its people. At a briefing held in Seoul's press center, the international body submitted a report citing that North Koreans are suffering from a suppression of individual rights as Pyongyang raised its level of surveillance on its own people. According to the report, since mobile phones were first introduced in the communist state in 2008, nearly 3 million North Koreans have been mobile phone users, but none of them have been allowed to speak with their friends or relatives living overseas. This is due to Kim Jong-un's tight control on the regime's mobile communication network.
They told us about their experience with state security agents and how these agents were able to detect and listen to mobile phone activity using new and likely imported equipment, and then arrest people who are trying to contact the outside world.
Because of this, the only way North Koreans can make international calls is to rely on the so-called Chinese mobile phones, which require an exchange of hundreds of dollars with an illegal broker. This still does not keep them safe from the regime's control, since anyone caught making an international call using a Chinese mobile phone risks being sent to a political prison camp. Amnesty International said that the absolute control of communication in the communist state is a key weapon for authorities to conceal details on the dire human rights situation in North Korea. It added that according to international law, an individual's rights to send and receive information across borders is part of one's basic human rights. The organization plans to carry various campaigns around the world to allow free use of communication technology in North Korea. Kim Mo-kyung, Arirang News.
"35 days to go until this country heads to the polls. Korea's political parties are racing to complete the process of nominating candidates for the upcoming general election. But they're getting tripped up by fighting over the candidate nomination rules. Our political correspondent Kim Young-gil explains.
The infighting within the Saenuri party can be traced back to a power struggle between those loyal to President Park Geun-hye and those who aren't. Party chair Kim Moo-sung, who is part of the non-Park faction, wants an open primary where party members and citizens choose the candidates to keep powerful people and factions from dominating the process. Lee Yang-gu, a pro-Park lawmaker, is using a top-down process in which the party chooses. He is also the chief of the party's nominating committee, and he declared last week that 23 districts, 3 districts within each of the 17 most hotly contested metropolitan cities and provinces around the country will follow a top-down system. The main opposition Minju Party of Korea's nominating committee is also taking a top-down approach. It decided that the bottom 20% of the 127 party members who were elected in 2012 will not be allowed to run this year to make room for fresh faces. That's 25 lawmakers, and of them, 10 have left the party and 5 have declared they aren't running, so only 10 have been disqualified. Still, the decision has already prompted a backlash within the party's rank and file. Minju's philosophical ally, the newly minted People's Party, selected 49 candidates on Wednesday through a combination of party recommendations and public opinion polls. Minju has called for a merger of the two parties, but the People's Party remains divided over the prospect. All 3 parties are also scrambling to woo members of underrepresented groups, including women, young people, and the disabled. People from these groups will get an extra 10 to 25% more points toward their candidate applications. In addition, first-time candidates will get 10 to 20% more points than incumbent lawmakers. Parties will also reserve 10% more of their proportional representative seats for women. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
The first game of Baduk or Go, as it's known in the rest of the world, of the much-anticipated match of the century between human Grandmaster Lee Sedol and artificial intelligence program AlphaGo wrapped up after about 3 hours and 3.5 hours, that is. And the result? Brace yourself for this: machine beating human. But does this mean artificial intelligence outsmart humans? Lee Ji-won has more.
After 3 hours and a half, the first round of the long-awaited Go match between Grandmaster Lee Se-dol and Google's AlphaGo ended, with the machine being declared the winner. As Lee Se-dol saw that the game could no longer be turned to his favor, he did not make the 187th move and forfeited instead. The game was a tight competition from the beginning, and AlphaGo even made a number of moves that professional Go players would not normally make. But a critical mistake by Lee Se-dol on the 127th move turned the tables for the machine.
I think the mistake I made earlier led to my defeat. Even when I made the mistake, I didn't think I was going to lose the game. So today's game was a big surprise for me. I didn't expect AlphaGo to play this well.
But it wasn't an easy game for the machine either.
I was sitting in the technical room watching the stats of what AlphaGo was doing and how it was processing the positions. And it was stretched to its limit all the way through the game in terms of every component of AlphaGo being pushed to its maximum, using its value networks, its policy networks, its search. Everything had to come together and was really pushed to its limit.
Both sides thanked each other for the opportunity and expressed their mutual respect for each other.
Huge respect for Lee Sedol and his amazing skills. He's famous for fighting and creative style, and I think that made this game extremely exciting and very tense. So, of course, we're very, very excited about this historic moment, and we're very pleased with how AlphaGo performed.
But it might be too early to say that artificial intelligence has outsmarted human intelligence, as they still have 4 more games to play, giving us all the more reason to wait for Thursday's winner. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
Well, AlphaGo's victory was taken by surprise by the general public, as many had expected that it was still a long ways to go for a machine to beat human intelligence. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports on the significance and implications of today's Go match in AI development.
Google's computer program AlphaGo took the first victory against Grandmaster Lee Se-dol, and the result is shaking up the Go gaming world. And according to a local expert on big data, the outcome will mark a watershed on how Koreans view the potential of artificial intelligence. Professor Kim Jin-ho at the Department of Big Data MBA of the Seoul School of Integrated Sciences and Technology says the change in perception is a welcome one as society becomes more aware about the importance of AI development that would prompt more Korean companies to step up their game in the field. He forecasts that AlphaGo will win a 5-0 landslide victory against Grandmaster Lee, which is in sharp contrast to the results of a survey last month among more than 1,000 adults, and which showed more than 56% of respondents thought Lee will win most of the games, while 31% expected AlphaGo to come out on top.
It was really a matter of time artificial intelligence would outrun human intelligence. When you look at the fact that global IT companies like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon are investing billions of dollars in AI development, I'm predicting that that day will come sooner than later.
The expert says AI development would be one of the most important advancements in the present era, as some of our daily tasks like driving will be handled by AI in the near future. Although AI is still far from being commercialized, Korean tech giants are speeding up their R&D investment in AI development. Last year, Samsung Electronics announced plans to invest in San Francisco-based AI tech company Vicarious, on top of the $16.5 million it injected into Boston-based robotics company Zibo. Zibo is expected to be released this summer that can recognize a person's face and communicate with its user. SK Holdings CNC is also expected to release its own AI platform and service this year called Pimi and Ego, respectively. Kim Jeon, Arirang News.
Well, Korea is boosting its crackdowns on illegal Chinese fishing boats that enter Korean waters. The move comes as part of the agreement reached between Seoul and Beijing last October to better secure the maritime borders between the two countries. Our defense correspondent Kim Hyun-bin reports.
Korea's Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries announced on Wednesday it will confiscate any illegal Chinese fishing boat that crosses into Korean waters. This comes as part of the illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing agreement that was reached in last October between Seoul and Beijing. Under the agreement, all Chinese fishing boats that cross into exclusive economic zones without fishing permits will be subject to confiscation by Korea's relevant government entities, such as the prosecutor's office. The illegal boat will also be fined around $41,000. But when such fine is paid, the boat could still be impounded by the Chinese government if the owner does not hold proper fishing permits. Korea will also tighten surveillance on designated checkpoints in the EEZ to make sure the fish carriers are en route. Just last year, over 140 Chinese illegal fishing boats were seized. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
A Korean survivor of Japan's wartime sex slavery has urged the Japanese government to make a formal official apology at the United Nations headquarters in New York. 88-year-old Lee Yong-soo spoke to journalists during a news conference held Tuesday, marking International Women's Day.
I never volunteered to become a comfort woman. I was forced to become a comfort woman by Japanese soldiers. Japan must be responsible for my encounter and admit the crime that the Japanese troops committed. They must bear legal liability and offer legal compensation.
Now, marking the day, Lee issued a joint statement with Korean American Civic Empowerment, Washington Coalition for Comfort Women Issue, Coalition Against Trafficking in Women, and Korean American Forum of California at the international body's head office.
As long as any government denies justice to women and girls, no matter when and where their human rights are trampled, we cannot move forward toward gender equality.
Roughly 200,000 women and girls from all across Asia, mostly from Korea, were forced into sex slavery by the Japanese military leading up to and during World War II. Well, last month we saw the excitement for the Pyeongchang 2018 Olympic Winter Games heating up with successful test events and celebrations marking the 2-year countdown to the Games. Now is the turn of the Paralympic Winter Games, which also started their 2-year countdown today. The Pyeongchang Organizing Committee celebrated the occasion with the public looking to bolster support for the often sidelined event. Our Kwon Jang-ho files this report from Pyeongchang.
The Pyeongchang Paralympic Games are exactly 2 years away. The Pyeongchang Organizing Committee marked the occasion with the Paralympic Day event and invited local residents to join in the celebrations. Unlike the Olympic Games, the Paralympics haven't garnered much attention in Korea, but the Pyeongchang Organizing Committee said it is looking to raise awareness on the Games and call on the general public to show their support.
Only with the success of the Paralympic Games does the true success of the Olympics come about. In order to achieve that, the support and interest of the public are what we need most at the moment.
Figure skating Olympic gold medalist Kim Yeona also attended the event to help promote the Games in her role as honorary ambassador.
I hope those watching and supporting ice sledge hockey players get to appreciate their passion and hard work rather than focusing on their physical appearance, and thus can help promote and change people's perceptions towards disability.
The audience was treated to an introduction to the exciting and combative ice sledge hockey discipline by the Korean national team. Korea currently ranks 6th in the world, and its star player Chung Seung-wan was recently named the best forward of the 2015 World Championships B pool with 13 goals and 9 assists. Chung has now been awarded the honorary ambassador role to the Games as well.
I hope those watching and supporting ice sledge hockey players get to appreciate their passion and hard work, rather than focus on their physical appearance, and thus it can help promote and change people's perception towards disability.
To ramp up anticipation, the Pyeongchang Organizing Committee have given the public here just a taste of the excitement to come, so that the Paralympics become just as successful as its bigger brother. Pyeongchang, Arirang News.
Well, with 2 more victories, businessman Donald Trump has moved closer to the Republican Party nomination in the U.S. presidential election. Bruce Harrison is live in the studio with me. Bruce, it appears at this point very difficult at this point to derail Trump's campaign.
He's winning, Pyeongchang. He's still winning, and I think that's a fair assessment. We saw him extend his lead. Rather saw Texas Senator Ted Cruz extend his lead briefly in the delegate count. But after these 2 victories, Trump seems pretty firm on his train that he's rolling on. On the Democratic side, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders refuses to go away, though. He landed an unexpected win in Michigan to show his campaign is still viable.
Well, taking into account the states that still needs to go to vote, how close is Trump to being nominated? And what about Hillary Clinton?
Well, I think it's best to look at the 2 states that are coming up, Florida and Ohio. Those are huge states. They're winner-take-all states. That means that whoever wins all the votes, they'll take those delegates to the nominating convention. A sweep by Trump would knock out home state favorites Marco Rubio and John Kasich. So if that happens, it's hard to imagine Cruz catching Trump. Trump was his usual cocky self on Tuesday. He mocked the dwindling GOP field.
We started off with 17. We're down to 4. Of the 4, they're pretty much all gone, okay? Pretty much. They didn't do so well tonight, folks, okay?
As far as the Democrats, Clinton is still on track to win the nomination with large lead in the delegates. But Sanders' win in Michigan was a stunner, and he made a point to say that the polls are fallible sometimes.
But I just want to take this opportunity to thank the people of Michigan who kind of repudiated the polls that had us 20, 25 points down a few days ago, who repudiated the pundits who said that Bernie Sanders was not going anywhere.
All the candidates on both sides are now looking forward to the crucial state of Ohio.
Well, meanwhile, on this side of the world, crowds in Indonesia had the best look of the total solar eclipse on Wednesday. And Bruce, for some people in one of the country's smaller islands, it was total darkness.
Just briefly, Pyeongchang, it was blacked out entirely for a small group, like you said. And a lot of people in the region were in position to experience not the total, but a partial solar eclipse as well. That includes parts of India, where the phenomenon is more than just a viewing experience.
People bathe in the Ganges in order to wash away the impurities that are generated 12 hours prior to the eclipse.
According to Hindu legends, a solar eclipse generates impurities in the environment that have an adverse effect on humans, so it's into the Ganges for a purifying cleanse.
Well, Bruce, this eclipse drew quite a bit of tourism even to Southeast Asia. I guess, maybe some people realize that, times is of the essence.
It's quite possible, Kanyan. The next one in Indonesia is 33 years off.
Well, I'm sure it was stunning to see nature work itself.
It's an incredible experience.
All right, Bruce, thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
Well, the calendar says we're in spring, but the temperature, I don't know about the temperature. It looks like we're heading back to winter, it feels like. For more on the weather update, let's go live to our Lee Jihan at the Weather Center. Jihan, I heard the eastern coast of this country had a very wintry weather today.
That's right, Ganyang. Goseong County, for instance, in Gangwon-do province, saw massive snowfall of up to 25 centimeters with a heavy snow advisory in place.
Right, that's a lot of snow and one that was not expected, but the sky was beautiful and the air was clean today relatively here in Seoul and quite chilly too. But what is the weather going to be like tomorrow?
Well, you'll need to dress even warmer tomorrow. It's going to feel like early February with the low in Seoul plunging to -4 degrees Celsius and daily high will only climb to 4 degrees Celsius. But people in the eastern coastal regions surely had wintry conditions with heavy snowfall throughout the day and up to 7 centimeters of more snow is expected until tomorrow morning with a heavy snow advisory in place in parts of Gangwon-do province and a dry weather advisory is also in effect in the metropolitan areas, including here in the capital. And experts recommend drinking plenty of water to stay hydrated. On that note, let's move on to tomorrow's temperature readings. Daily low here in Seoul will kick off at -4, while Daegu and Daejeon will start out the day at -1 and -3 respectively. And as for the daily highs, it's going to be a cold day with a high climbing up to 4 degrees Celsius, 8 for Daegu, while Daejeon and Gwangju and Jeju Island top out at 6. Now the cold snap should hit its peak on Friday with the low plunging to -5 degrees Celsius here in Seoul. Now that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is our broadcast on this Wednesday night. The ancient game of Go depends mostly on intuition since it's so complex. And the victory today really shows that computers are well on their way to learning what people thought only belonged to humans, the powers of learning. So perhaps it's time to think about regulations now about artificial intelligence. I'm Moon Gun-young. Thank you as always for watching, and we hope to see you right back here, same time tomorrow on NewsCenter.